guys, welcome to today's video, which is my lupus 4 years on from diagnosis, which is just crazy to say, but there we are. So yeah, if you don't know and you're new here, hi, welcome. I was actually diagnosed with systemic lupus erythematosus, I could never say that last word, SLE for short, or just lupus, it was July 29th, 2016, so yeah, 4 years. And I like doing these videos because it can feel, when you're living with a chronic illness, as though you're not getting anywhere, nothing's ever changing, everything's awful. And looking back at these that I've made for like 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, I can see how far I've come and how much I've learned and changed and how well I'm doing, really. And that's a really big and important thing for me. And maybe if you follow for my lupus stuff, and if you do, I'm sorry, because I haven't posted a lupus thing in a while. I've been going through a lot, we'll get into that, but yeah, if you follow me for that, then maybe it helps you. Maybe you're newly diagnosed or waiting on a diagnosis, or even you could be 20 years after diagnosis, and we can all learn from each other, and I just really want to try and help people. So I've written some notes on my phone. This video might be a bit all over the place, I'm sorry for that. I just like wrote down whatever was coming to mind when I thought about doing this video, and what's different this year. So yeah, I'll just talk you through that. So a bit about my diagnosis, I suppose, just to begin with, in case you are new or you just don't remember. That's fine. So I was super fit, super healthy, so unbelievably active. I often had like 3 jobs at once, because I was a performer. That's what I've done my entire life: acting, dancing, all that malarkey. And yeah, I was working professionally in that after graduating from university with a first-class degree, which was a performance degree. And I'd like often, and I was a gym rat, always in the gym. Like I would go to the gym twice a day, before work, after work. Loved it. Just lived for like physical stuff. It was what I always wanted to be doing as well. Like my idea of a fun day would be doing something active, same as like I'd always choose something active for my birthday. It's just who I've always been. And all of a sudden I was having lots of random pains. I was absolutely exhausted beyond belief. Like I couldn't, all of a sudden, where I'd kept up that lifestyle for my entire life, I couldn't keep up with it. I had to like go down to 2 jobs, then down to 1 job. I had to stop going to the gym as much. I couldn't do as much when I was at work or at the gym. I kept having these crippling pains where it felt like my body was just being soaked in cement, and I like would never be able to move again, was honestly what it felt like, which was causing me to have panic attacks and really affected my mental health, because I had no idea what was going on, what was wrong with me. I also never obviously thought it would be anything like lupus, so I was just pushing through constantly, pushing. I'll be fine, something's wrong, but I'll just push through and I'll go back to normal, because that has always been my normal, being that active. And obviously that didn't happen. And it was crazy. I then started having like huge breakouts of rashes that were so horrific, like all over my body. I had to keep going to the hospital for them. A paramedic rushed to my house once because I'd called my doctor and my lips were all swollen, which obviously they get worried is like anaphylaxis. And yeah, it just was a really scary time. I ended up having to give up work altogether at that time. I just physically couldn't do anything. I'd never had pains in my entire life, and then all of a sudden I was in pain every day. It didn't matter how much I slept, I was never ever rested. I was always tired, and now I know that to be fatigue. And yeah, it was just crazy. And I actually, because of the rashes, I went to my GP and I explained all of this. And actually, before I went to her, I went to a physiotherapist. I just paid for this physiotherapist I've seen a lot throughout my life. Being a performer, you just sometimes have to do that. And I thought it was a problem with like me, like something I was doing to myself, and she couldn't really find anything wrong for like why I was in these pains. And then I went to my GP with these rashes, and I got sent for allergy tests, and they all came back fine. And she just out of nowhere said, I think you might have lupus. And I was just knocked for six. I was expecting to go into that appointment getting told like, oh, you're allergic to wheat or something. But no, it was like, yeah, I think you have this disease, this life-threatening disease. That's what I think you have. And I went home and I cried, and I was terrified. And I obviously Googled it because I'd heard of it. And all I knew about it was that it could make you lose your hair. That's all I knew. And yeah, she sent me to a dermatologist to get diagnosed, and I got diagnosed in July of 2016. And then it was a long wait. I waited until November 2016 to see a rheumatologist to get me on the right prescriptions and actually get me help and slow down my disease activity, which was never meant to be that long. It was like a mess up. Let's not get into that, eh? Yeah, it was like the biggest adjustment of my life. I had to come to terms with a new normal and a new body completely. I actually basically nearly doubled in size and weight. Like as I sit here now, I'm like double the size I was before I got ill. That was another reason why, which is awful, because like the amount of stuff I was going through that was getting ignored by doctors, but then because I was putting on weight, it was like, oh quick, we're all scared because she's getting fat, like, because just medical fat phobia is rife. And yeah, but I mean, it was alarming. I was actually, they were sending me to see a nutritionalist because now I'm past it. I can see, I don't think they believed me when I said that I was like not living the way they kept accusing me of living, and I had to track my food. It was awful. It also came at the same time that I was in eating disorder therapy, which made zero sense, which my eating disorder therapist then put a stop to me going to the nutritionist because of that, because it just was so counterproductive. But I was putting on like half a stone a week, and I was eating healthily, the same as I always had, healthier than I actually always had. No one could understand why, and that was a big reason again why they thought I had lupus, because lupus can affect your weight drastically, and so can the meds you take for it. So yeah, let's fast forward to 4 years. Here we are. So a big thing that has brought me joy this year that I had to overcome last year was that I realised last spring, when the sun started coming out, that I was in a better place than I had been the year before. 2018 was hell for me with my lupus, and so I was excited and I wanted to go places and do things again, and I was finding myself really scared of the sun. And that's because if you didn't know, the sun, the heat, the UV rays, it all affects lupus like really badly. You can have a worsening in your symptoms from as little as 2 minutes out in the sun. So we have to be really careful if you have lupus to make sure we're always wearing hats, sun cream, cover up as much as you can, stay in the shade, get as little sun exposure as possible basically. But even on like overclouded days, if the UV rays are high, I'll still have to do those things, because yeah, if it gets into my body and makes my lupus go crazy. So and I'd had some of my worst flares up until that point because of the sun and because of the heat, and so I found myself scared, and I didn't want to like go out, or I'd go out like the warmth of sun on my skin would freak me out and make me panic. If I was in the car, and like, you know, sometimes if you're in a car and you're on a straight road, the sun's coming in, there's not much you can do. I'd be like freaking out trying to cover myself up. Just was really like bad, but I really wanted to overcome it because I was going to Florida in September 2019 last year. So I really wanted to overcome that fear before I got there, because I didn't want to have my holiday spent that way. And I did, and this year I've been able to safely enjoy the sun and enjoy a bit of warmth on my skin every now and then, and I'm not at all afraid of it anymore. And it's just given me a lot of my life back, because I find it hard, like, because the fear of the sun was legitimate, and it was legitimised, like it was logical for me to be worried about the sun because of the effect it had had on me so many times before. So talking myself out of something that's been proven was hard, but thankfully I'm there now, and yes, I really enjoyed this spring, and now we're obviously in summer, and I'm enjoying being able to be outdoors. I'm a very outdoorsy person, and I hid away for a really long time because of that fear, and now that's gone. I just feel like my life is fuller, and I'm much happier for it, and it's better for my mental health and just loads of stuff. But yeah, I totally understand if you're the same, and if you're in that phase of your lupus where you feel like you need to hide. Don't beat yourself up about that. I feel like everyone goes through that, and everyone needs to go through that. It's like your adjustment period, and you're just doing what you know will keep you safe. But eventually, you know, if you can find safe ways to enjoy things again, then that's going to be better for you, isn't it, in the long run? So yeah, that's a really nice thing to start on. Something I've learned and has improved my life immensely is that aids and mobility aids are not restricting. They're not you giving in to your illness and all this other tripe that people will tell you. They actually give you all the freedom in the world, and I already knew that, because to me it's clear if a person needs a wheelchair to get out and they don't have a wheelchair, they're not going to be able to go out. But if they have a wheelchair, they're going to be able to go places they couldn't without it. So I knew that, but what I mean is that I've taken it more seriously, I guess, in the last year, because I went to Florida, and then in this January this year I went to Tenerife. I was so much more okay with asking for what I needed wherever I went, using whatever I had and whatever I needed wherever I went, letting go of the like shame of it, and because there is shame that comes with it that's not coming from me, but honestly, unless you have used a wheelchair or a mobility skill or a mobility aid, you won't understand. You think that it's 2020 and that people won't do it, but people stare, people say things, people treat you a certain way, people make assumptions, and it's really hard, especially when you have an invisible illness. And I guess to a lot of people, maybe I look well, even when I'm in a wheelchair, and so I get a lot of questions and I get judged, and that is hard. But this last year I just haven't cared about that, and I've put myself first and my needs first, and it's improved my life tenfold. Now I can enjoy travelling so much more if I make sure I have a wheelchair in the airport, both sides, when I'm going and when I arrive there. The next day, so the first day of my holiday, I can enjoy so much more because I'm in less pain, I'm less fatigued, all of it, like every symptom is lessened, and so I can actually enjoy my holiday. Where I was like, oh, you know, I'll be fine before, it killed me off, and it just wasn't good at all, and it made me so much more unwell, and it meant that it not ruined, but it affected negatively on my holidays, where now it obviously doesn't do that. Something new that has always happened, but I've only this year worked out that it's a pattern, is that I lose my voice when I'm in my worst flares. I go through bouts where I wake up just with no voice, and I'll have no voice all day when I'm in my worst flares. And I don't know if it comes from sheer exhaustion or like, I don't know what it comes from, but yeah, and now I look back and I'm like, yeah, that's happened every time I've had a really bad flare, but I just never like made note of it, I guess. And I'm saying that just in case that's something that you go through and you're like, is this related? For me, every single time I'm in a bad flare, I lose my voice. So my butterfly rash on my face has been the worst it's ever been since last year. And obviously I've covered it with makeup today, so you can't really see it, but it's been not even necessarily looking the worst it's ever looked, but feels the worst it's ever felt. And it's the strangest thing, because sometimes it'll be clearly like really red or like purple almost, and mottled and angry looking, but it won't feel that bad. And then other days it doesn't look that bad and it feels awful. The way I describe it is that even to the touch my skin can feel cool, but under my skin feels like boiling lava, and it is so painful and uncomfortable, and it's all you can focus on. It's so distracting. It will ruin my whole day, my whole week, my whole month. And back when I saw my rheumatologist in November, he gave me an injection in my arm of, I think it was a steroid mixed with a antihistamine, but don't quote me on that. But he gave me an injection and was like, let's experiment, because if it helps, then it's definitely your disease activity, and if it doesn't help, it might be something else wrong with your skin. It cleared it up like that. It was so much better, and it stayed better, and it was only meant to last 3 months, and it lasted 3 months, and then it's come back and it's really bad again. And because of the coronavirus, I actually can't get out right now to have another one, because he said that they're not really wanting to give people steroids because they're not sure of how it interacts with the virus or something, but as soon as it's safe to, he'll give me another one. So that's been really good to find something that helps with that, because that's something I've suffered with since before I even got diagnosed, was this like burning painful sensation on my face, which is my butterfly rash. And yeah, touch wood, we've found something that helps, so that's another good thing. Just before lockdown, I had got into swimming, and I say just before, really it's taken a year. I went to physio, and I had to build up from doing 20-second yoga ball exercises with a yoga ball that the physiotherapist gave me, and then we built up to doing more and more, still only 20 seconds, but more exercises in a row. And then I was trying walking, but walking when you're in that much pain just is no fun. Like, it really isn't. And everyone told me it'd be like a slow process to, like, if I would see any improvements, and we can't even guarantee I'll see any improvements with walking. So that was really hard. And so I went back and tried swimming like the start of last year, I wanted to do it because I wanted to try and be in slightly less pain to see if it worked, to add in more movement to try and be in less pain, ready for Florida again. And yeah, I actually got to a point right before lockdown where I had a few weeks in a row where I went 3 times a week, and I don't do very much. I only do what I can, and because of my history of eating disorders, I try really hard to not set like a goal and then go, oh, next time I have to beat it, next time I have to beat it, next time I have to beat it, because the amount of times I've nearly passed out, or I've had to, when I was really mentally unwell with my eating disorder, had to like call people to pick me up from the swimming pool because I literally can't drive or walk because I've so overdone it because of that. It was bad. So now I just go and I just do as much as I can or as little as I can, and then I get out, and it doesn't need to be swimming at full pace for an hour, or it's not good enough and it wasn't worth it. It's worth it just to go and do it. So, and because I enjoy it, and yeah, so I'm really proud of that. And obviously, like, when I'm still shielding at this point, so I don't know when that's going to get lifted and when it's going to be safe for me to go back into a swimming pool, but I've really missed it. That's something I've noticed, like, I've really missed it. I think it's really good for clearing my head, and I get quite emotional because it's the only time I feel as graceful and as able as I used to when I danced. When I'm in the water, I feel like a dancer again when I'm in the water, which is really beautiful and could make me cry. I don't want to cry in this video. I wanted this to be a positive video, but yeah, it's really emotional. I miss dancing with my whole heart, and I'm just not able to do that right now, and maybe I never will be, but maybe I will. But when I'm in the water, I feel like a dancer again, and it's just really lovely. I've been going through the longest flare of my life right now, because of stress to do with a situation I'm dealing with these neighbours and the police and the council, and it's just been horrific, let me tell you. And because of that whole thing, the stress of it has made me so unwell. It's been the longest flare I've ever had, I think. What I'm really learning this year in particular is that when I'm in a really long flare, there comes this period where it's starting to ease, and I really have to be so perfectly in tune with my body to know whether today is the day I can push through, like today, and film with you guys, or today's a day where yes, I feel better, but I still have to pin myself to my bed or my couch because tomorrow will be the day that I can move if I do that today, if that makes sense. So really learning when to push through and when to retreat is hard because it takes a toll on my mental health hugely. When I have long bouts of like not being able to even feed myself, and yeah, that's really hard on my mind, and so I can often be eager the second I feel any improvement in any symptom to be like, today's the day, I'm gonna get up and do stuff. And if I do that, I'll go all the way back to where I started resting, because I have like these rest periods, and it's knowing when's the time, and I've messed that up so many times. It's really been a case of trial and error where I've had to just really be in tune with my body and be like, I feel a little bit better, but I know if I push through today, I'll be worse tomorrow. Where if I rest today, I could probably have 2 days after that where I'm better. Do you know what I mean? It's a strange thing, and anyone with a chronic illness is going to be nodding along saying they get it, and anyone that doesn't probably won't. But yeah, I just really having to learn when to retreat, when to push through, and be in tune with my body has been like crucial to my well-being. My main 3 triggers are still the same. They are the heat, the sun, the UV rays, all in one. Stress is the worst one, and overexertion. So if I push myself too hard, if I push through when I shouldn't have done, those are my 3 main things that trigger a flare. And I still have pretty much the same things in flares, where I'm in more pain, more fatigue, I end up bedridden, I lose a lot of hair. I'm losing so much hair. But through this stuff with my neighbours, I'm losing the most hair I've ever lost since 2018, and maybe the most hair I've ever lost overall during a flare ever, I think. I'm having real bad problem with sores on my scalp, swollen and like sore eyes, which I'm going to see an ophthalmologist for in August, depending on the situation of the world. Rashes, I've had rash all over my body through this stuff with them. So yeah, pretty much the same symptoms of a flare, although I can get those symptoms without being in a flare as well, which is very confusing, and everyone that gets lupus gets it differently and experiences flares differently and all the rest of it. So like, obviously you've got to just be, like I said, in tune with your own body really. Life is better overall though now with lupus, I feel like, because I feel like I've got much better at the balancing act. I've got much better at what I call active rest. So like, I'm focusing on just resting because that's what my body needs. I fought that for a really long time, being like, no, I don't want to do that, kicking, screaming. That's not going to be my life, but it is, and I'm better off for it because now I get good full days of proper rest, where before I was getting like little snippets of rest and then pushing through and then being angry, and now I let myself have full rest. That's just the balancing act of that, and then of like I said, adding in some safe movements with a professional's help has been good. I'm starting to feel more like I can accomplish things again, where I went for a really long time when I got diagnosed, probably until last year, where I felt like I was never going to accomplish anything again, because I just felt like my life had been robbed. Honestly, I just felt like my life, my body, my mind had all been robbed by this illness, and I'm starting to realise that I can still accomplish things and that I can still get better at things. I went through this huge period of like where everything I could do, I was all of a sudden getting worse and worse and worse at, and then not being able to do it anymore. It has been so long since I've been able to get better at something, but going through that thing with physio to get to the point of swimming showed me that it might take a long time, and I'll have to be very patient, which I'm not naturally. I'll have to be very careful and gentle with myself and kind to myself and take it really slow, but that I can still learn new things, get better at things. Not everything has to get worse because of my lupus, which is a really strong message that I want you all to take from this video, because I get it. I spent literally years, and I still have days now where I feel like I'm never going to accomplish anything again. All my dreams are dashed. I'm never going to be able to learn anything new, do anything better. Everything's just always going to be worse and harder. But that's not the case, and I didn't believe it until I saw it, but now it's happened, and I feel like, yeah, it's made me realise that actually 4 years on, my life is better now than it has been for a long time to do with my lupus. But yeah, that's this video. I feel like this is the most positive year update I've ever had, which is really, really lovely, even though I'm in the worst phase of my life right now. But it's because I now know how to handle my flares better. I know what I need and what I don't need, and what to do and what not to do, and yeah, it means that I just have a better quality of life than I have had for a really long time. So yeah, I hope this can give you some positive news if you're worried about your lupus, if you're just getting diagnosed, if you're newly diagnosed, or whatever your case is. And I hope it can, yeah, just give you a positive outlook and realise that, like, not everything has to be bad, which, trust me, even this time last year, I would not be sitting here saying that. So much change can happen in such a short amount of time for the good, and just try and have faith in that and some hope, I guess, because it can be really easy to lose that when you go through such a huge life change, and when you have gone from healthy to then having a disease. It's hard, and it's a shock to the system. And don't beat yourself up for being sad or angry. Let yourself feel whatever you need to feel. Honestly, I think that was my overriding message from last year's update, was just to let yourself be and let yourself go through the motions of it, because fighting it gets you nowhere, and I wasted so much time doing that. But yeah, so it's nice to do a positive update for you guys, even though I'm struggling. And I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and if you like this video, please do give it a like and subscribe. I'd love to have you here, and if there's any other lupus stuff you want me to address and do a video on, please do leave it in the comments, and I'll make sure I get around to doing that. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.